How to create formulas in a worksheet. One of the most powerful features in Excel is the ability to calculate numerical information using formulas, just like a calculator. Excel can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create basic formulas using cell references. Excel uses standard operators for formulas, such as the plus sign, the minus sign. Remember that it is an asterisk for multiplication and a / for divide, as I'm going to show you now. All formulas need to start with an equal sign. This indicates to Excel that this is a formula. Let's click over in cell A5 to begin. Because we're going to add the 10 and the 30 in this column, we need to start with a equal sign to say this is a formula. Let's click on the 10, use our plus sign on our keyboard, and click on the 30. Remember, it doesn't type 10 plus 30, but rather uses the cell reference A1 plus A3. Once done, push your Enter key. Remember, it is very important to click on the cell where the number is rather than type the number in. Why is this? Because if I change the 10 to 100 now and enter, watch how the formula adjusted itself. Because it's referring to the cell, not the actual number. Let's delete that 40 by pushing our delete button. Let's do it manually. 10 plus 30 and enter. Yes, you get the correct answer, but if I had to change that 10 to 100 now, the formula wouldn't adjust. So you've got to be very careful in Excel to rather refer to the cell. Let's do that again. Equals, click on the 10, plus, click on the 30, and enter. In the next column, let's do subtraction. Equals, 80, select the cell, minus, on the keyboard, 50. And enter. In this column, I'm going to multiply the 90 times 100. Equals, click on the 90, and remember multiplication is the star, times 100, and enter. And in the last column, finally, we will do divide. Equals 160 divided by, which is the / the 130, and enter. So those are all your basic maths principles. And remember to always use your cell reference. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use Excel's built-in functions and how to insert them. If you had a full column of numbers, one underneath each other, you wouldn't want to go equals, click on the one number, plus, click on the next number, etc., especially if you had 400 numbers. So Excel's got a built-in function referred to as AutoSum. So let's do this on the first column. Click in the cell where you want your answer. Next, on your home ribbon, you will have what we call the AutoSum button, which looks like an M lying on its side. Click once on that button, and as you see, it will highlight all the numbers above where you are. In this case, the 10 to the 40, in other words, range A1 to A4. So once again, it starts the formula with an equals to tell Excel this is a formula. The word sum means add, and the range is A1 to A4. Now you can either click on the AutoSum button again to confirm or push your Enter key. So let's click on AutoSum again to confirm. As you can see, the number, or the answer rather, is on the spreadsheet, but the formula is up in your formula bar up here. And that is a quick and easy way to add up a full column of numbers. What about rows? For example, if I click in E1 and I want to add everything on the left, again click on AutoSum and click again to confirm. Always check the dotted line is around the correct range. If it wasn't around the correct range, for example, it was only adding the 10 and 50, how would I recorrect it? In other words, just go and re-highlight what you wanted to add and push your Enter key. And that's your AutoSum function. It is very handy and much quicker than adding cell by cell. The other built-in function I'd like to show you is the average function. Now normally over here you would add all four numbers together and divide by 4 to get the average. Instead, I'm going to click on the little arrow, drop down arrow next to AutoSum and select average. Now this function looks exactly like sum, it's just replaced the word sum with the word average. The range is correct and I push enter. And 65 is our average out of those four numbers. In the next cell, I'm going to find the highest value in this column, and this function is called max. Let's click on the arrow, choose max. The range is correct, so I enter, and that will find the highest in that column, in that range, which is 120. And the final one, which is min, which will find the lowest. So I'm clicking on the arrow next to AutoSum, and I'm choosing min for minimum, and enter. Alternatively, I'm just going to delete the answers there. The other way to do this would be to go to the Formulas tab, and over here we have a whole lot of categories with Excel's built-in functions. In this particular case, average, max and min is found in the more functions in statistical, and here you will see average. Select it, and here it's asking me for where is the range to average. If I click on the red arrow, I can then highlight what I want to average and push enter, and then OK. That's the alternative way of doing it. Let's do max using the Formulas tab. Click where you want your answer, more functions, statistical. Let's find max in this list. Click on the red arrow, highlight the range, push your enter key, and OK. And finally, let's do min. And those are some of Excel's built-in functions. We learned about the sum, the average, the max and the min in this lesson. Further along in the more advanced Excel, you will have more lessons where you learn logical functions and lookup functions, etc. We're going to learn how to copy and paste formulas. Let's click in cell A5. Let's go to the Home ribbon and AutoSum like we learned in the previous unit. Remember to enter or click on AutoSum to confirm. Now, if I wanted to add the next column, the next one, and the next one, I would not AutoSum and AutoSum and AutoSum. I would merely copy this formula. So once you've done the formula, get your black plus in the corner and drag to the right. And you'll see your answers appear for every column. How this works is if I click on the 100, you will see up here in your formula bar, it's summing A1 to A4. In the next column, you will see it summing B1 to B4. The next column, C1 to C4. As you can see, it nearly leaves the 1 and 4 and changes the letter in the front. So if you're in column A, it would be A1 to A4. If you're in column B, it would be B1 to B4, C1 to C4, etc. In Excel, we refer to this as relative copying because it copies relative to the column you're in. What about rows? Let's try that. Let's click in E1, let's AutoSum and enter. And let's copy the formula down. Get the black plus in the corner and drag down. Here you will see it summing A1 to D1, A2 to D2. So the A1 is changing to A2 because it's row 2, and then it will be row 3, row 4. And this is relative copying by row. Now, if I were to copy this formula somewhere else, I could right-click and click on Copy, and click in another cell and right-click and paste. And you'll see that you get an error. This is because it's copying the formula, not the answer. And you can see in the formula bar, it's saying ref. In other words, it's lost its reference. It doesn't know where to add now. So let's delete that. So in order to copy the answer, you would click on the formula, right-click and choose Copy. Click where you want to place the answer, right-click, and instead of paste, the one next to it says paste the value. Let's click on that. And what that does is it pastes the answer rather than the formula. And if you look in the formula bar, you'll see it's 100 there. There's no formula in there. So that's how you copy the answer instead of the formula. In this unit, we're going to learn about fixed references in formulas. If you're a person that uses formulas a lot, you definitely need to learn this. In our previous lessons, we learned how to sum. Let's go to this example over here. Over here, you can see it's summing A11 to A13, and then it changes to a B because we're now in column B, and it changes to a C because we're now in column C. This is referred to as relative copying. The same would apply to rows. This is adding row 11, row 12, row 13, row 14, etc. This is referred to as relative copy. Now let's try and apply this principle to this exercise, and you see we're going to come up with errors. What we have here is the spend by department. HR spend 15, sales spend 21, the total spend for all areas being 98,700. In C1, I want to work it out as a percentage. So in other words, HR made up 20% of the total spend, etc. The formula for this would be equals, click on the HR amount divided by the total and enter. To convert that to a percentage, you would use the percentage sign on your home ribbon. Let's copy it down. And as you can see, we get all these div errors that come up. What has happened here? Let's double click on the first one. You can see it's correct, 15 divided by the 98. Let's double click on the next one. It's taking 21, which is correct, and dividing by the blank cell underneath the total, hence the div error. The next one, it's then taking 16,800, dividing by a blank again. So as you can see, there's a pattern. The 15 is moving to the 21, 16,800, etc. as it should, but the total is also shifting into blank cells here. So somehow I need to tell Excel to anchor that or keep that total constant when I copy. So let's delete that. Equals, click on the 15,000. We don't do anything to that because it must move, divided by the total. Now, before you push enter, you would normally push your F4 key, and that's going to put dollars in your formulas. Or you can manually type them in, as I'm going to. I'm going to type a dollar just before the B, and I'm going to type a dollar just before the 6. What this means, it's got nothing to do with currency or money. It's the symbol Excel uses to say keep still. So in other words, the dollar before the B means keep column B constant, and the dollar before the 6 means keep row 6 constant. In other words, the whole cell. And enter. Let's copy and see what happens this time. As you can see, the formula is consistent all the way through. If I click on the 15%, you'll see it's B1 divided by B6. The next one will be B2 divided by B6, B3 divided by B6. The first part of this formula is relative, and the second part is absolute, as we refer to in Excel, or a constant. Sometimes you only need to keep the column constant, and sometimes you only need to keep the row constant. So let's look at this example at the bottom here. Over here, I want to say 1,000 times 10%, then 1,000 times 12% across this line, and then when working downwards, it would be 1,000 times 10%, 2,000 times 10%. So let's do it using no absolutes and see what happens. Equals that, times that, and enter. Let's copy down. First of all, the 100 is correct, but let's have a look at this one. It's taking the 2,000 and timesing by the 10% is moving down. And if I double click on the next one, it's then taking the 200,000 into the formula, timesing by the 3,000. So you can see that the 10% is shifting all the way through. I would need to keep that 10% constant if I were to copy down. Let's copy across. That is correct. Let's double click on the 12. In this formula, it should be saying 1,000 times 12%. It's now moving the 100 and timesing by the 12%. And this one is taking the 12 by 18%. So we also need to keep something constant here. So let's delete these answers and try again. Okay, so we're going to start with an equals. And we're going to click on the 1,000. And in this particular case, when I copy down, I want the 21 to change to the 22 to change to the 23, but I do not want column A to shift when I go across. So I'm going to put a $ in front of column A, times, and I'm going to click on the 10%. Now, in this particular case, we don't want the row to shift. So in other words, it must stay on row 20. It mustn't go to 21, 22, 23. So I'm going to put a $ in front of the row. So in this one, column A has been kept constant, and in this one, row 20 has been kept constant. And if I copy down, you can see it's correct. You can see that's correct. How about we copy across? Let's have a look. That is correct. And that one is also correct. So sometimes it's a relative copy, which is just a plain copy, and sometimes you need to do an absolute copy using your F4 key or just typing your dollars in. Sometimes it's a dollar before the column and the row, and sometimes it's just a row, and sometimes it's just a column.